Previously on Rebels and Robots and etc., we talked about
The Boy and the Heron.
the title is totally The Boy and the Heron.
Half of it.
We got through almost all of it. We got close to the end, but the last like 20 minutes really ramps up. So I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Walking in a winter monster land. Run away, it's Godzilla.
It's Wednesday night, and Cameron and Rachel are hanging out yet again, which must mean it's Starformers-Zilla-mation night. Welcome to Rebels and Robots and RAR, episode 44. I'm Cameron.
I'm Rachel. Is this not episode 43 and a half?
It's a whole new episode.
Oh. So we are doing a whole new episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we haven't done Meme Minute. Well, I've got some, not news, but like thoughts from last week.
I do have some news.
So it's a whole episode.
I do have some
We're
news.
just continuing our discussion from last week. This is our weekly chat about Star Wars and...
Transformers.
and...
Godzilla currently.
And animation and whatever else.
Whatever the heck we decide to talk about.
So today we will conclude our thoughts. We'll give our summarizing thoughts and analysis on The Boy and the Heron. We'll also wrap up the plot summary from that. And it's currently December 27th, so I am going to... I've got a little Christmas thing, and then we'll do Meme Minute left over from last week. But as always, we've got news and recent thoughts, anything from the last week. Rachel, what news do you have for us?
I really only have two news things. One, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, I believe is nominated for some things at the Game Awards this year, but did not win anything. Or did it get Action Adventure?
Let's take a look.
I should know that. Maybe. So the awards...
I'm trying to find it here if I can.
I know.
So it happened on December 7th.
It was nominated for some games. It's nominated for that. It was nominated for some awards. It was nominated at the Golden Joystick Awards for Ultimate Game of the Year, Best Lead Performer, which is Cameron Monaghan, Best Storytelling, PlayStation Game of the Year, and then at the Game Awards, Best Performance, also Cameron Monaghan, and Best Action Adventure Game. It was nominated but did not win. However, it was named IGN's Best Action Game of 2023. So that's fun. That's really all I got for that part of the news, but I thought that was fun.
Yeah, it's Star Wars video games really started off really rough in the Disney era with EA's Battlefront not being nearly as good as the original and not being particularly good in its own right. And they were fine. I think there were strengths to their Battlefront games for sure, but considering how incredibly well loved the original two were, and then things started to develop and get a little better, and I think the Jedi Survivor games have certainly been a high point so far.
It's a trilogy, so there should be a third one coming out, and then there is. This is talked about Star Wars Celebration. It is where you play as a not scavenger, smuggler. Almost in an open world GTA kind of Star Wars game. I think is that also EA? Might be EA. But so
was that Ubisoft? I think.
It might have been.
Well, I don't have news, but I do have a thought from last week. Today, I was listening back to last week's episode. And I was thinking about Shaw, who is the American soldier who helped start Monarch, and now he's played by Kurt Russell in the modern day, and he's old, and he's kind of leading these young guys. And at the end of the last episode, he says that he's not trying to kill Godzilla, he's trying to help him. And that made me think about, one, at what point did he learn that Godzilla is like a defender of Earth? Like he's like the equalizer of all the monsters and stuff. Because as up to this point in the show, young Shaw has no reason to know that. Actually, like as far as we know, up until 2015, very few humans are aware of that concept. So I'm curious to see if we get to see how he learns that information, because I don't know how he would. Then my other thought that came from that is I started thinking about these character names. Is it Bill Randa?
Yeah.
Bill Randa, when we see him as played by John Goodman in Kong Skull Island, he really, really hates monsters, like a lot. And I'm
They
wondering.
did kill his wife.
Yes, that is true. But I do wonder if at some point in the show, their opinions of monsters will greatly diverge. Now, I assume
I hadn't made that connection.
I assume that their feelings for Kiriko, is that their third partner's name?
so.
That they both are in love with. Rhonda's the one who ends up with her. Shaw does not. But as far as the chronologically of the show, earlier on, it was Shaw and Kiriko were the ones that were in love.
Yeah.
So that's clearly going to cause a rift between them. But also, it would seem as it's very possible that at some point Shaw decides not all the monsters are evil, and it's possible that Rhonda might feel that they are all evil and should all be wiped out. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think that it's possible the show is setting that up, which let's get to that quickly, please. Let's get to some interesting character stuff, because that sounds great.
Please.
That's the thing that I thought was set up to be possible plot thread in Kong versus Godzilla, and then they did not do anything with the idea of humans being split on their alignment with the monsters. I think would be really fascinating.
Because it was hinted at in King of the Monsters.
Yeah, absolutely. That is that the one woman, I don't remember any of the character names, but she thought that they should terraform Earth to allow the monsters to live.
Yeah.
But anyways, do you have what other news do you have?
Takashi Yamazaki has won Best Director for Godzilla -1 at the 48th Hochi Film Awards.
Okay. Nice.
And of course, it's not. We won't know the answer for a couple weeks yet, but Godzilla -1 has been nominated for Best Film at the Oscars.
Nominated or is on is eligible?
It's eligible,
on the
and then I
list?
think the voting takes place this week.
Yeah, because actually reminds me, I'll shout out a friend of mine. I'll shout him out by name because he's on social media. He's very active on social media. His name is Bailey. He goes by. He's changed his name a few times. The Movie Daddy. He's very, very funny on social media. He posts a lot about Star Wars and Transformers and Godzilla. He loves Godzilla, and he posted an image of Godzilla -1, and it just said at the top for consideration in all categories. And he played over the audio from The Social Network when Andrew Garfield's character is like, I'm not coming back for 30%. I'm coming back for everything.
And you know what? Something interesting that I heard, I've been watching some videos about Godzilla -1 because I don't know about you, but I've been kind of curious about specifically why it's called -1.
Sure.
And someone made the connection. So at the end of World War II, Japan was basically at zero. They had been, they had lost. They'd surrendered. They'd lost countless ships in their fleet. In the Pacific War, they had been nuked twice, and so they were at zero. They were, basically kind of building from the ground up afterward, and then Godzilla nuked them again, which kind of puts them at a -1 kind of level.
Sure, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That was kind of interesting because I was like, why is it called -1?
Yes, that definitely rings true for sure. Any other news or anything?
I think that's all I got.
Okay. Well, I wanted to share with you. So, this last week was Christmas, and we celebrated Christmas with Allison's family, and we do Secret Santa amongst the adults. And her older brother Will got me, and so shout out to Will. He went nuts. And he knew that I like Star Wars, so I wanted to share some of the very interesting things he got me.
Oh, what'd you get?
Let's see. Where do we start? We'll start with the more normal items. He got me a little canvas image.
I love that.
It's an AT-AT set to look like it's in the Starry Night by Van Gogh. So that's very pretty. I love this. I love Van Gogh. I love Starry Night, and I love that painting aesthetic. Similar to that,
style.
He got me a placemat.
Style.
Yes. It's Darth Vader in Starry Night. It's a placemat.
If Cameron had a nickel for every Star Wars Starry Night themed thing he got at White Elephant, he'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot.
He also got me a bunch of off-brand Legos. They're like Chinese off-brand Legos. And they're all like really smaller sets, which I really, really love. And so here we've got a little Millennium Falcon.
Oh.
And I've not had a
Century
chance
Falcon.
to build any yet. The Century Bird. A little X-Wing.
Oh, your babies.
And what is this one? This one is... Oh, an R2-D2.
He bends.
I'm looking forward to... I've never had one like that before, so that's exciting for me. Let's see, other Legos. These two. One is a little ATST, and one is a little, like, white speeder.
Ooh.
Which actually matches a set you got me. Because you got me the Stormtrooper Hoth set, which came with a white speeder.
Nice.
So this will match that nicely.
I have Legos in my office at work.
I believe it. And what else? He got me like little not Legos, but like metal miniatures that you like put together.
Yeah.
This one, so it's like a sheet of metal with pieces in it that you cut, you pop out, and you put together. One is Kylo Ren's TIE Fighter.
Ooh.
And the other one does not show.
He loaded you up.
Yeah, he he found some, I would assume, somewhat shady Chinese website.
Temu.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one. Yes. I'm gonna see here. This is gonna be live on the pod. I think this is a normal TIE Fighter.
Ooh.
So those will look really cool. In metal.
Nice.
Looking forward to putting those all together. And then he also got me. Oh, I forgot to start with the clothes that I'm wearing right now.
He got you all of those?
Yeah, so I'm currently wearing 2 different things he bought me. Pajamas with shirt and pants. That is Grogu with a Christmas hat on, and then some like designs. So those are very cute. Though the pants don't have pockets, so I've been like constantly like going to put my hands in my pockets.
He's rubbing your thighs.
Yes, but they're very soft, and I enjoy them. And then also this button-up shirt that I'm wearing that has like blueprint-esque drawings of Millennium Falcon and TIE Fighters and...
Looks like you've got a Star Destroyer.
Star Destroyer, Y-Wing, B-Wing, AT-AT, ATST. I think that's the bulk of it. So I like this shirt a lot. It's very...
Yeah, that's nice.
It's got a nice blue, dark blue to it.
That is your color.
Well, thank you. He got me this cute, like... anime-looking Chewbacca.
Put it on your car.
I think I will. He's like a very stubby-looking. There's like a word for that, like the chubby, short anime.
Chibi.
Chimi. That's what I was thinking.
Chibi with a B.
I see. And he, not from him, but actually from my own brother and his wife bought me lightsaber chopsticks that glow.
Oh
red.
my gosh!
So those are really fun. We met them at an Indian restaurant for dinner on Christmas.
Nice.
And they gave these to me, and I was really tempted to use them in the restaurant.
Nice.
And he also... So 2 more things. Where is it?
I feel like I should pull out what I got.
You definitely could. A little bit of Beskar. So it's an actual silver bar that is official currency... $2, but it's got
nice.
It's got the Imperial logo on it, like the block of Beskar.
Mint.
And finally, the weirdest one.
Oh.
I'll open it. It's a blanket. I will reveal it to Rachel here.
Oh.
What do you see, Rachel?
Oh. It's like a cartoon Obi-Wan and Princess Leia. And big old faces of you and Allison on it with BB-8.
And it's got our name on it too.
It would have been so funny if it was Luke Skywalker.
Yeah,
considering
we
you guys
initially thought that it was Luke and Leia. Yeah,
we were like, ugh, Tug's collar.
So shout out to my family for getting me cool Star Wars stuff. For
Okay,
Christmas.
well, I should probably get my cool Star Wars stuff for my family. I thought we were jumping straight into it. I wasn't prepared. I was not prepared.
I meant to tell you to have your stuff ready. And
I was not prepared. Fortunately, it's all in here.
That's the sound of unopened Legos. Consumerism at its finest. For the use of making other people feel temporarily. Not temporarily. I felt very loved the last few days even thinking about this, and I will feel loved as I continue to build these Legos.
Oh, I felt super loved. Okay, hold on.
Oh, these are good.
I got one more.
These are real good. Oh, man, these are big boys. These are heavy. I'm not even going to say what it is. I'm just going to tell you that they're heavy.
Oh.
Dang.
It's so heavy.
These are all podcast relevant, too.
They're also relevant. So, if you know me, big fan of animation, big fan of movies. I love to collect those art of books. And so when my family, I put a bunch of the art of Star Wars and other movies on my list this year. Family pulled through. Big props to my family. I got a lot. And so actually, I think the first thing I'll start out with, this was fun. So this is the art of coloring Star Wars. I don't know if you've seen this before.
Maybe.
I've seen it before. This first I actually have it on my own, and it is a fun coloring book of Star Wars pieces.
So they're like kaleidoscope images. At least those
Not
first
all
few
of them.
pages.
But like,
And then we've
fun.
got like cute portraits of Chewbacca and Jar Jar. Oh, this is really cute.
So- Boba Fett.
No, it's Django. He's got
was
the
it
two
Django?
pistols like crossed over his chest.
So
Yeah.
like, lots of.
I like the kaleidoscope images a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Those are super cool. And then this is like almost more like wallpaper
Yep.
of all the ships.
So,
Clone Trooper,
Some
an
are very
Ewok.
stylized, and some are very detailed. So lots of
Like
fun
a bunch
things
of
like
helmet print. That's really fun.
that. That's Rex.
Oh, it is. Very nice.
So all kinds of fun things.
Is that just Anakin?
His Anakin. and,
That
like,
one's
Vader.
kind of strange. It's
No, I looked at this one and I had to go, what is that? I think
see.
that's Anakin, like Attack of the Clones Anakin.
Uh-huh.
I was like, whose guy is that?
Uh-huh.
But then there's also like the Millennium Falcon, but then also like the Empire, and, like Vader and TIE fighters,
All like kaleidoscoped.
and a gun. And a
It's pretty
lightsaber.
much you had one image multiplied 4 times. The the Twilight dancer from Jabba's palace.
Next Admiral Akbar.
Akbar.
So all very fun
Oh,
stuff.
very like high contrast image of young Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Good stuff. That's fun.
So that's fun. I'm excited to color in that. I'm actually gonna save that one for last. My parents. I also got the art of Rise of Skywalker, which is fun. Actually, interesting seeing a lot of the concepts for this because I'm like, oh, this guy looks pretty cool. This is stuff. This is some stuff that maybe we could have had.
Yeah.
A lot of what could have been. So lots of fun looking through that. It's kind of self-explanatory.
Yeah, art book. If you've never seen an art book is pretty much all the concept art that was created in the process of making the movie. And that's, especially with Star Wars, I know it was really prevalent with Force Awakens, but there's always concept artists are often encouraged to just create, just draw
Yeah,
things.
just make things and see it's throwing stuff at a wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah. Like, I know one of my favorite stories is like the creation of General Grievous. Lucas had no idea what Grievous was going to be. He was just a villain. And so what we got is so specific, but they had dozens and dozens of totally different designs for what that character could have been. Because if you actually watch the movie, Grievous is a very non-specific character. Like anything out beyond the way he talks and moves, like none of that's in the screenplay, the original screenplay. So like it was just a blank villain in that slot that the concept artist created and made one of the most iconic villains. Just that one is an example.
And I'm pretty sure the artist behind Maul was like told, just draw your worst nightmare. And he did.
Interesting. And this is incredibly important for Star Wars because like concept art is what drove the creation of the original movie. Ralph McQuarrie came on and took Lucas's original screenplay, sort of drawing the world. And Lucas said that concept art motivated him and inspired him to make the movie. Like once he saw someone visualize his vision, the concept art inspired him. And then Ralph McQuarrie went on to paint. I did not know this until we watched the Industrial Light and Magic documentary. Ralph McQuarrie himself did a bunch of the matte paintings for the original trilogy. And those concept arts continue to inspire Star Wars. Like pretty much if you see a cool thing in a new Star Wars, the chances of it being based off early concept art is so likely.
And we talked about this before. That's all of Rebels.
Yes, pretty much.
Dave Filoni went, I'm taking everything that they didn't use and using it here. Like Fifth Brother's helmet was a concept for Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
But so the other ones I got The Art of Rogue One, which has been really fun to look at. And so I'm actually very excited I got this one because it's been in and out of stock for a while. After Andor came out, it was out of stock for so long, and I was kind of nervous. So that one, enjoyable, of course. Another one I got was The Art of Solo, which has actually been fun to look at, kind of seeing how this one went through.
I'd be very, very interested to see how much in there, because if you don't know, that movie changed directors
so much
mid-production, and I'd be really curious to see how much they allowed in that to be from that original version of the movie.
So lots of fun things.
So in the movie, the Millennium Falcon has its like nose piece still on, and this concept art, that nose piece has an additional like what is it, like
extension.
the part where the cockpit. That was really cool. Yeah, these are all the robots and
pikes.
Oh, they've got the pikes with their masks off. That's cool.
So yeah, all kinds of like fun, great things. So the Kessel Run monster, creepy looking thing. So yeah, all kinds of fun things. So very enjoyable.
Good stuff.
It's ripped, which makes me sad.
Oh,
but that's easily fixable. And then actually, what I really enjoyed getting was Godzilla, The Art of Destruction, which is the art book of the 2014 Godzilla. And so one thing that's very interesting is actually, because I read through this one, they did a lot of rotoscoping in this film.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. You know, that's funny. Just a quick aside. I'm sitting here thinking about how I wanted to say at the top, I called the episode Rebels and Robots and RAR, and I thought about saying Rebels and Robots and RAR and rotoscoping as the stand-in for animation, so I almost said that today, so it's funny that came up.
And if you don't know, rotoscoping is animating directly over film. That's pretty much what
Probably the most famous example of it that I can think of is the Aha's Take On Me song. You know that song? Take On... The music video for that is rotoscoped. And also a lot of 80s animation like heavy metal.
So this was actually kind of interesting because one of the artists was talking about how, I guess they were in the middle of shooting somewhere and a big flock of birds came in like at the perfect time, totally unplanned, totally something that can't be replicated. And Gareth Edwards was like, I need that in the movie. And so they had to like promise him they weren't going to edit it out, and then like had to rotoscope those birds back in like over the film. Oh,
interesting. Wow.
So the one thing I actually wanted to talk about that I thought was really interesting is the journey to legendary Godzilla and the concepts he went through, and some of them are like, ooh.
Oh, so different designs for Godzilla himself.
Some of them went a little too close to
98.
Yeah,
Godzilla.
for real.
Yeah.
So I just kind of want to show you a little bit. Like, I was actually looking at something, I was like, oh gosh, glad I didn't go with this.
I think people want to make him hunch over. They want to turn him into more of a
They
lizard.
want to turn him into a T-Rex.
Yeah. Oh, it folds out. Oh, that's really cool.
So, yeah.
That's very T-Rexy in the face, but at least the rest of the body's pretty standard. His arms are a little longer than usual. Oh, wow. These
My
are
table's not long enough.
Oh, this is a big boy here.
Yeah,
he's
a
very
big
chunky.
Boy.
The final design, see, this is one of the very few instances where like the final design is so good. Like a lot of times concept art like makes the movie look bad, but in this instance, like these are good designs, but the final Godzilla design they came up with is so good.
And this one is like much more sea creature like.
Yeah, that one's scary.
I know. So it folds out into like 6
And it really
leaflets.
shows there's a lot of different ways to go, but then it kind of stops
And
looking
then
like Godzilla.
I hate this one.
Yeah, these are all good monster designs, but
They're
none
not.
of them quite.
They're not the man.
Except for one looked a lot like classic Godzilla, which I think, like, if you go too far like classic Godzilla, then it looks a little silly if you want it to be more serious of a movie.
And so you can kind of see, they're continuing to move, looking through. And it's like they're kind of getting closer.
There is a lot of ways you could approach this.
Then
there he is.
you can see
Such a good design.
one of the artists made this initial sketch. I don't know if you can read it. It's one of the initial first concept arts of like what he actually looks like now. And this is basically the one where they saw it and went,
That's great. Yeah.
that's the one we're doing.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool.
And I think really the big difference is that they made his eyes so much smaller. I think that's the big kicker because in original Godzilla, it's a man in a suit.
Yeah.
The eyes are very big. The eyes are actually, his face is very feline.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, honestly, I kind of like almost make jokes that you see like some of those older masks and it looks like a cat.
Yeah.
He's very feline, but then you have finally got it. And I think it helped when they made his eyes a little tiny.
And a more rounded nose. Like, not
Yes.
a round nose, but like rounded and squared.
So this has been interesting. Ooh, I don't like that Muto concept art.
Very anime looking.
little
Very
weird.
simple.
But so, yeah, lots of fun taking inspiration from stealth fighter jets for the Mutos.
Yeah.
So anyway, that one was really
Love it.
enjoyable. I do not own... So I put it next to my King of the Monsters concept art book. I do not own the Godzilla versus King Kong one yet because I just don't love that movie. I feel like I should probably have it for collection purposes, but I don't want to buy it myself.
Yeah.
So I now have, it's funny because out of the sequel trilogy, I have Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker, but no Last Jedi. So that's in my Amazon cart right now.
Is that the end of it for you?
For all my Star Wars stuff, yeah.
Yeah. One last thing I wanted to share before we finish up our Boy and the Heron thing. It was just a nice moment.
Oh, wait, no, I'm kidding. Jokes.
Oh.
I'm so sorry. I put it to the side to save. So I got a book from my mom called The Unauthorized Star Wars Compendium
Okay.
by Ted Edwards. Says the complete guide to the movies, comic books, novels, and more. And then at the very bottom, this book has not been prepared, approved, licensed, or endorsed by any entity that created or produced the Star Wars properties. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And so I'm looking through it because I want to find the publishing year, which is 1999.
Interesting.
So
Wow.
you have the making of, so it's like in episodes.
So like rather than
Chapters.
chapters, as it says episodes.
So making a Star Wars trilogy radio dramas, adventures in the comics, the fiction guide, the special editions, Rebirth, the timeline, 50 Reasons Why Jedi Sucks. I'm assuming that is Return of the Jedi.
That's bizarre.
Which I love my hot take is I think Return of the Jedi is better than Empire Strikes Back. But so I'm very interested to read this one because I have not read the Legends books.
Yeah.
I just have not. I probably will not. Nothing against them. I just probably won't because there is so many and basically you can kind of read whichever ones you want. But so yeah, it's got a lot of interesting. So yeah, it's got information about the books and I'm like, oh, as someone who is not going to be reading the books, makes it a lot easier because you've got the synopsis, you've got the review and the notes. So this is one guy's kind of view on all these things. I'm actually surprised that he was able to publish this.
Yeah, that's really interesting. In a time before the internet and Star Wars,
In a time before Disney bought Star Wars.
way before.
Disney would have sued this guy into the ground.
In a time before the internet, when people could just vent their Star Wars opinions endlessly, this guy decided to make a book. It sounds like.
But so I'm actually kind of interested because I'm like, oh, I don't have to read all the books. I have to read all the Legend books to understand them now. So it was funny because like, Mom, where did you find this? This is actually from our own personal library. So thank you, Mom. I was very excited. So this one, I'm excited for all of them, but this one I think piques my interest the most.
Great, thank you so much for sharing.
Now I'm done for reviews.
I just wanted to share. I probably should have shared this in news section because that's our like things within the last week. But I just had an interesting just moment thinking about Star Wars this last week.
Thinking about Star Wars.
Yeah. So in our guest bedroom in Allison's apartment, we have a shelf, and on the shelf I have all my Lego Star Wars. And a couple years ago, I'm actually friend of the show, Megan. I had Megan make Allison a notebook that we could record all the things that we had done in our first year together.
Oh.
And the cover for this was made out of this paper that was blue tie-dye looking with white specks on it. And I had some extra that just kind of sat around forever. Well, what Allison did without even me realizing it, she set it up and put it as the backdrop for my Star Wars Legos. So it looks like stars and stuff. Allison was working and I was cleaning up the house and getting stuff together, getting ready for us to go out of town for the holidays. And I saw this and I really loved it. And then later I was walking around cleaning and Yoda's theme, which is one of my favorite Star Wars songs.
That's your song.
Well, my number one is the one that we had at our wedding, which is the throne room scene. But this is definitely up there.
Emphasis, Cameron and Allison's wedding. Not our wedding.
Oh, yes, ours and mine and Allison. But
our wedding.
That song started playing right as I walked by it again. My Lego setup, and I have this little light that a good friend of mine bought for me for my birthday this year. That you can swap it out. It's got a R2-D2. It's got a Millennium Falcon, and it's got Death Star plans, and it's a light that lights up different colors. And I turned off the lights. And I turned on just this light, and I just sat and I just looked at the Legos with this light on and this music, and that put me in this very nostalgic space, and it just transported me. I don't remember a time without Star Wars. My dad saw it when he was 16 years old in 1977, and has been a big fan himself. So I grew up, and I was 3 3/4 when Phantom Menace came out in 1999, and I saw that twice in theaters. It's one of my earliest memories is seeing the Phantom Menace. Really, my entire life has been had Star Wars, and most of my best friends I've shared Star Wars with. I've shared it with my wife. So it just this moment sitting and thinking about building the Legos as a kid and as an adult. So it was just a nice moment to think about why do I have a Star Wars podcast along with a bunch of other stuff? Is because it's important to me, and so I just wanted to share that. It was a cool, fun little moment that I had.
All kinds of heartwarming Star Wars moments
around the holidays. Very much unlike the holiday special. Allison found there's been a lot of memes going around about what Luke Skywalker looked like in that holiday special where he had really weird makeup.
Yeah, that was
Mark Hamill specifically looks really
odd.
Odd.
Right after his wreck, wasn't it?
Good question.
I think it was right after.
I didn't know
wreck.
that. That's fascinating. I did not put those two together.
Because they caked him up with foundation.
Yes, but regardless, he looks very odd in that because of the cheap television lighting and
the only person who looks good in that special is B. Arthur.
And Allison had never seen this image of him before, and she was like, "What is this?" And none of that is relevant to today's
actually
actual topic. Yes. We are going to conclude our discussion of The Boy and the Heron, a beautiful film that I have not been able to stop thinking about.
Because you saw it again.
I did. So last week...
Did you see the English?
I did see the English dub.
How was that?
Yeah, so the last thing that we mentioned last week was you mentioned the cast of the English dub. So this is a great transition this week. So I got to see the English dub. Overall, I would say I enjoyed the Japanese version more than the English dub. I felt like it just fit more naturally. I mean, that's what it was recorded in. Any dub always has some sort of
delay.
It's just like a difference. There's a gap between what was intended and what you're watching. It's just not meant to be. And that's totally fine. It didn't it's not horrible. There's a strong tradition of English dubs being terrible. It definitely never felt disrespectful or like it was trying to dumb it down. There were some very interesting translation differences that Alice and I both caught. And they're just I think the English, I would hope the English translation never changed anything, didn't change the meaning, but sometimes the English translation did make things make a little bit more sense. Like one word difference would go from some of the confusion we had watching the movie to making things make a little more sense. So I think it's a little more clear, the English dub. But most of the performances are fine. Christian Bale is very odd as the father, as dang, I need character names in front of me or I will not get through this.
It's not the first time he's been in a Miyazaki film, because he plays Haru in Spirited Away.
Yes. He is the voice of
The father.
Yes. Oh man, I need character names in front of me. Here we go. Maito. Maito's dad. And Maito is played by a young American boy, which I've actually not looked up to see if that's someone I know. But Bale is doing like a Cockney accent, and
Hate that.
it's very silly, and it kind of matches the character, but it definitely took me out of it for him. I think he was probably, I wouldn't say it's a bad performance, but this is kind of sometimes what you get. The issue with these dubs is the actors are not necessarily all on the same page, so not everyone's giving the same kind of performance, and he felt very different from everyone else. But what I will say is the one everyone's talking about, which is I do not have names in my head today. The voice of the Heron,
Robert Pattinson.
is Robert Pattinson. Thank you, and he is phenomenal. He's really, really good. And some people might still only know Robert Pattinson as the Twilight guy.
Should it have been Danny DeVito?
No, it shouldn't have. It would have been distracting because you would recognize his voice. Pattinson is totally unrecognizable in this. Some people still only know him as the Twilight guy, which is a severe disservice to him as an actor. He has done.
He hates those films.
Yes.
I really enjoyed him in The Batman.
He's incredible as Bruce Wayne and Batman in The Batman. He's incredible in a lot of different movies, such as The Lost City of Z. He plays a minor character. He's so good in it. And he's had a bunch of other award-winning movies like Good Times and I'm going to totally blank on anything else he's been in.
Oh, he's in The Lighthouse.
Oh, The Lighthouse. Yeah, it's another one people really like, which also has Willem Dafoe, who's also a voice in this dub. But Pattinson...
Mark Hamill's also in this dub.
Yes. Very, very brief. He's pretty much... There are times where I could hear Hamill in there, but...
Is he the uncle?
Yeah, he's the grand uncle. But Pattinson, the one thing that I would be interested to watch the Japanese version again to see if the Japanese version did this same thing that Pattinson did. Pattinson would do a lot of subtle changes in his performance as the Heron would change form, because the Heron has a lot of different like in between states. Like he has the full on Heron mode, he has the mostly like human guy mode, and there's various stages in between. Yes, and Pattinson would perform these parts relatively differently, like not totally different, but he would give minor differences, and I didn't catch that with the Japanese performance. Everyone outside of that is fine. I do feel like while the voice of Maito is not necessarily exceptional, it did help me connect with the character a little bit more. I don't know why. Just hearing him speak English helped because what really stuck out to me this time is that up until they go into the fantasy world, Maito has very few lines of dialogue, and that did not jump out to me in the Japanese. Talks. It's crazy. Yeah, I know. And so anytime he talked in the English dub, it jumped out to me because I think when you get into foreign language movies, unless someone's doing a really specific voice, sometimes the voices tend to like blur together just a little bit because you're not used to that accent, and so they kind of seem somewhat familiar. So it didn't jump out to me. But with it being this younger boy whose voice I could recognize a little faster, and I'm not reading subtitles, it stood out to me that he talks very little, which I think further illustrates the character development that he goes through, because he's a jabbermouth by the end of the movie. He's got a lot of lines of dialogue. I'm going to look up the cast here real fast. I do know that Florence Pugh is the voice of the older woman who then has a younger version of herself in... Oh,
she plays the older woman as well?
Well, at least it's the character. I don't know if she's the voice of both. I think it was her, but I'm not 100% sure. Let's see if I can
Your
find.
mother.
So you got the old dying pelican is Willem Dafoe. So it's a very short part,
Oh,
but
really?
Dafoe is great. He rules. He does a great job. Dave Bautista is the Parakeet King, which I really enjoyed. I love Dave Bautista, most famous for Drax the Destroyer and Guardians of the Galaxy.
I feel like he kills every role he's in.
He is so great. Gemma Chan, who is the lead of the Eternals movies. She's also one of the sisters in Crazy Rich Asians. She is Natsuko.
Well, glad she's got another good film to add to her repertoire after Eternals.
Yeah. So she's the aunt mom. That's Natsuko, right?
Stepmom, yeah.
Yeah. Mark Hamill is the grand uncle. Maito is played by Luca Padova, who I do not recognize off. He is in the newest version of Are You Afraid of the Dark? He's in that movie that came out earlier this year called No Hard Feelings. Not a ton. So a relatively unknown young actor. Florence Pugh as Kiriko. The various parakeet voices have two listed actors. Tony Revolori, who is Zero in Grand Budapest Hotel, and he's also Flash Thompson in the newer Spider-Man movies, and I feel like he's in something relevant to this podcast.
What do you mean by newer Spider-Man movies?
Like the Tom Holland ones.
Oh, him.
And he's also in Asteroid City, which puts him as far as I know, the only actor. No, so Willem Dafoe and him are both in Asteroid City and this. So those two actors are in both of my top movies of the year. And yeah, so anyways. And then the other one is Dan Stevens, who is relevant because he's one of the main characters in Godzilla X Kong. And that is it for the actors that I recognize. Anyways, everyone between, I think Christian Bale is the most miscast. Pattinson kills it. Everyone between there is just various levels of fine.
So I have to ask.
What's up?
The scene where Mahito is fixing the little plug for the Heron.
Okay, yeah.
Is that also funny in the English dub?
Yes.
Okay,
It
good.
works really well. That does remind me, for some reason, an example of the English translation working a little bit better and being a little more clear in the American, in the dub, instead of what's the character's name? Instead of Kiriko telling Maito to not touch the little wooden dolls that are around him when he wakes up. So in the dub, in the subtitled one, she says, "Don't touch them," and then he does, and nothing bad happens, and it's kind of a confusing moment.
Yeah.
In the English dub, she says, "Don't move them," which is a big difference in my opinion.
Yeah.
And she says, "Don't knock them over," I think, which is a big difference. So that whole element ceases to be confusing.
Yeah.
That is an example of some slight translation that makes a movie just a little bit more clear. Anyways, so overall, I wouldn't, if someone struggles with subtitles, especially with a movie, if you're not used to engaging with animated films that are this complex, the dub might be a little easier for you. But if you're a purist and you really are into Japanese animation or any sort of foreign film with subtitles, you're used to it, and you want to experience the movie as it was intended, I would recommend the subtitled one. But I recommend both. I think it's fun to compare them, and I got a lot out of seeing both of them. So we dropped off last week. They had just entered the birthing room, where is it Kiriko or no? Sorry, Natsuko yelled at Maito to leave, and then all the paper ribbons turned into dragons and pulled him out. And then Himi wished for them to survive, and they all pass out. And then I think that's where we will pick up now, where Maito wakes up in this like strange room. How would you describe this room? It's kind of like a
butcher shop.
No, before that, he wakes up with the granduncle
Oh.
in like this like
Yeah.
it's a room with just pillars. Like it's just an empty room, and there's pillars and it's whiteness. And we see this room a couple of times. It's kind of like a transitory. It almost feels like a bus station or a train station of sorts. Like there's no details to make it feel like a specific thing, at least from our cultural context. But within this world, it serves as kind of a transitionary, and it's just beautiful. Like it's just. Last time, Allison said we can't get caught up on too many things, so it'll take too long to talk about. But just like this room is so simple yet so gorgeous, and when I went and we saw the movie, I saw it with friend of the show, Caleb, and his new wife, and Caleb's younger brother, who is a film student. His name is Josh, and
They're just doxing everyone.
I think first names are fine. And Josh said something I noticed upon rewatching it was there's a lot of repetition in the movie, and not necessarily that things are repeated multiple times, but a lot of things happen twice. Mm-hmm. And you see this room 2 different times, and I was trying to figure out the potential metaphorical or thematic significance of that, and Josh just said, I think it's just because it's so pretty they wanted to show everything twice.
They worked really so funny. Hard.
Yeah, it just reuse the animation. Why not? So then I don't is the uncle? Oh, the uncle is there with his stack of his tower. Yeah, do you want to describe that?
So he is building a tower of blocks out of all white blocks, and they're not very conventionally shaped.
Yeah,
you have triangles, you have spheres. You have cylinders, which I don't know why he was balancing them on their side, but I'm no engineer. And he's balancing them, and he's trying to keep them from falling over.
And someone on one of my favorite podcasts, I think it was the guys on the Blank Check podcast, said that it's the world's worst game of Jenga.
For real.
Especially with the spheres. It's just so dumb. And Maito tries to talk to him, I think, and the granduncle goes, one moment. And he like taps one of the blocks over, and the tower struggles, and then it stops, and he goes, oh, this world can exist for one more day.
Yeah.
And Maito was like, what? Excuse me?
Yeah.
So the implication there is the uncle is maintaining the integrity of this small world by keeping this tower upright. So then they go on a walk. So they walk through the doors, and then now later when the parakeets go through here, it's like a paradise. But I don't think they see that. I don't think in this scene when they walk through, they end up on like very similar to the area where we started in this world, which is the grassy hills next to the ocean. And I believe we talked about it earlier. We may or may not have. Earlier in the movie, one of the older women talks to Mito's dad and says that the tower was built out of a crashed meteorite. And so we see the meteorite like suspended in midair. And this is one of my favorite images in the movie, because I would assume this meteorite is a different kind of animation. I'd presume CGI, maybe not, but it looks totally different than everything else. It's got like colors pulsing. It looks like
an oil slick in a way.
That's an interesting way to describe it. I would say it looks like drying volcanic rock. It has like these lines in it, and it looks like it's got something in it that's trying to get out. And it's just suspended in midair. And it's like the moment you see this meteorite, it's just like it feels foreign. It feels dangerous. It feels like something else. It's just another example of the movie conveying purpose through its animation. And I don't remember exactly what. Do you remember what the granduncle says here to Maito?
This is where he has the proposition where he wants Maito to take his place. Right?
See, there's 2 different scenes that take place. That's what the movie gets kind of hard to remember.
No, this is where he propositions him.
Okay.
He kind of explains more, because by the time, not to skip ahead, it's a much shorter scine the second time. This is where he kind of like builds the proposition and like actually introduces himself to Maito. Maito's like, oh, you're my granduncle. And he's like, yes. That's actual dialect. No, kidding. But so this is, I believe this is where he explains what the blocks are, correct?
Oh yes,
because
so
they don't have enough time to explain that later.
now I remember. Yes, so he says, "I want you to take my place, and you can add one of these blocks." And he offers him some blocks, and he says, "Those are not good blocks. Those are cursed. They're made out of
Tainted.
tombstones." Yeah, and is it here or is it later when he says, "I can't do this. I have my own malice"? Is it? I think it's later when he presents him with the good stones.
I think it was like a test.
Yeah.
Because the grand uncle's like, where he says, no, it's tombstones. And he's like, oh, you noticed. You would be good for this kind of thing. Which does interest me because he says you can place one block on the tower, which makes you curious about everyone who has come before the grand uncle. That's like a block of 10. That's like a tower of 10 stones.
That's an interesting read because I assumed the uncle created all this.
See, my thought was when he told him that he can add one, my thought was, so has there been one person who's been tasked with adding a stone each time?
That is interesting. I mean, it's unclear. So there's lots of
who
different ways to take
knows?
it. I assumed that nothing existed here before the grand uncle because the meteorite crashed
True.
to Earth and
could've
he's
been
the first one to
aliens.
find it.
Could have been aliens.
But regardless, I think at that point he wakes up. Mito wakes up chained in a room, and there is a parakeet sharpening knives. Oh, incredible transition. So the blocks in the uncle's hand start to spark, like we saw the stone wall sparking before, and then it cuts back to reality, and there are sparks coming off the knives.
Yep.
It's a really, really cool transition. Because that's how... Again, the whole dream logic of this whole thing, when you wake up from, oftentimes something from reality will insert itself into your dream and then pull you out of it. And I love the juxtaposition of you have these parakeets are so goofy in their design. They have big eyes, they're very round, but behind him is painted beautifully but horribly bones and meat just scattered everywhere.
Viscera.
Yeah, it's gross. So then... Is it? Oh,
The heron.
The heron rescues him very poorly dressed like a parakeet, which
so
is
good.
he's got like a mask and like eyes on top of his head.
So good.
And we get to see the parakeet city, which is hilarious. It just cracks me up that you see in like various levels from the camera, you see parakeets just hanging out. They've got like bars, they've got restaurants,
They've got children.
they're doing laundry. Nothing quite entertains me as much as like 2D animated characters in the distance because they're often drawn with a lot less texture,
Shape.
or and detail, and that the way they are even more simplified in that state is so fun. And they're just like doing very small movements back and forth. It makes me so happy. Even though the parakeets are horrible carnivorous characters, they're so cute. So in this sequence they like knock out multiple parakeets just by conking them on the head. The movie becomes very goofy at this point, which is so fun.
They almost kill one with a falling spike.
And
So they're trying to find Himi.
oh
in
he
this.
is with the grand uncle, I think.
No, Himi
Oh,
has,
she's-
so
Yes,
they're trying
now
to
I
find
remember.
Himi, and they kind of like get out of like the town part, and they move into what almost seems to be like a very large chapel or very large building with stands.
Yeah.
And there's a road in the middle, and this is where we see the king parakeet
Yeah.
with a procession, and we see
Yeah,
Himi
yeah.
lying in a like a glass coffin. After both Himi and Mahito passed out, we see the parakeets like converge on them.
And this
And
from what okay, so this part I get, this is a very small detail, but I would like to talk about it real quick. Apparently Hayao Miyazaki hates Disney. But there are 7 of the older women, and they seem like the 7 dwarfs. And now you've got Himi enclosed in a glass case, very similar to Snow White.
well, Disney did not come up with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Yes. But that image of her in the glass case, I think, is very particular to the Disney version, is it not?
I'd have to read the original one.
And if it isn't, then he's just gone with this very interesting Snow White visual illusion. But the seven dwarves, obviously, but like that's the most famous version. Maybe he's trying to like steal it from Disney and do his own version. But small, it doesn't. Ultimately, I don't have any reading on that. It just seems like he's making some interesting visual references. But yeah, so they're going
climbing
up
above in the rafters, and they almost kill a parakeet. They knock down. It's interesting. The rafters are armed with those anti-perching like spikes that you put on a fence, so you don't want birds to sit on them. So they, Heron and Mahito climb across. They see Himi, and so eventually, King Parakeet and his little procession get to a very tall spiral staircase.
Before that's real fast. A very interesting visual cue into what these parakeets are supposed to symbolize. They have lots of banners, and the logo for this parakeet kingdom is very, very similar to. I'm sure various logos. I'm pretty sure it looks very similar to one of the key Nazi, not the like swastika, but it's like this like eagle looking. I'm gonna have to try to find it.
Oh,
it's,
like the SS.
No, it's more like a bird with very long feathers.
Yes, the German eagle.
Yeah, that might be it. Regardless, this image immediately.
It's the coat of arms of Germany.
That's close. I have a more specific. Oh, here it is. It's the eagle that they have above the swastika on a lot of Nazi.
Okay.
And there's a lot. I feel like this kind of image is very prevalent in a lot of dictatorships and a lot of. I think it's also related to the fascism of Italy which is also World War II. It just immediately cues you into these birds represent fascism, represent oppressive, single-minded
Greed.
Very greedy, very bloodthirsty. And my big read on this is the birds are obviously very prevalent in this movie. And this whole world, just about everything in this world somehow reflects something we've seen in the real world that's important to Mahito. His father makes airplanes. The birds and airplanes, very obvious parallel there. I think the parakeets specifically symbolize Mahito's fear of what his father's creating and how it's used. These birds, they're evil, flighty things that are trying to kill people and might try to kill him. I think he has this fear of planes being used because his mother got firebombed. I'm just not making this connection. His mother was presumably killed by a plane.
Yes.
And I think that's all very significant. And so the birds are introduced very late. A lot of people online are very confused by the parakeets. But
really?
Not necessarily like there's like I don't think people in typical American Western storytelling, it's very much set around 3-act structure, very much set around setup and payoff. This movie has none of that. Things are not really paid off. Things are not really set up. It's much more a lot more illusion, a lot more metaphor, a lot more flow of consciousness to a degree. And so when you have technically your main villain presented in the third act, that is not how most stories are told in Western culture. So I think when Americans bump up against things they're not used to, their immediate reaction is to not like it. And it's okay. It's okay if you think this is not a great story. You're allowed to have that opinion, but I think you shouldn't dislike it just because it's different from what you're used to. There's not just one way to tell a story. Now, I think 3-act structure and setup payoff is a really good structure that, like, if you break away from that and your story doesn't make sense, it's your fault. You failed. This story's not supposed to make sense. This story is supposed to be, it evolves as it goes on. And I think it actually works really well to just have these parakeets come crashing into the story the way they do. So that's my perspective on all of that. So they start going up the spiral staircase, as you were saying.
And the king parakeet, I can't remember what exactly he says, but he turns around and like reassures his people that I don't know if it's going to save their kingdom, but he makes a very pointed statement that returning Himi to the magician will like propel their society, basically. And so they go up the staircase, and the Heron and Mahito are climbing up on the outside of this big old tower. And they finally get inside, and they are noticed by King Parakeet, who destroys the bridge after them. Just like destroys it. And my thought was, how are they gonna get down afterward? But so they enter that empty room, that transition place, and they walk into the next room, which is like a very lush jungle paradise. Like the two birds that are carrying Himi actually have some really fun dialogue where they like, don't they make a comment like the ancestors?
Yeah, they
Something
first
like
say, "Is
that.
this paradise?" And then like a very simple bird flies over. One of them's like, "Our ancestors."
Yeah, the ancestors.
And they're like crying. It is so funny.
It's almost like, have you seen? It's a very simple comic of a little boy in a dinosaur museum, and he's laughing at the T-Rex's little arms, and it pans down to a window. There are two pigeons looking in, and they go, he mocks the ancestors. I'll just find it, see if I can post it.
So good. So good.
But so very humorous. Dave Bautista just brings Himi to the magician.
I like that juxtaposition of actor name, character name there.
And so they open the casket. Himi wakes up. I can't remember what exactly is exchanged. The dialogue between King Parakeet and the Grand Uncle.
So to summarize it, the Parakeet King is mad that Mahito went into the birthing room.
Oh, yes.
And the
Grand Uncle doesn't
Grand
really
Uncle
care.
now, so pretty much the Parakeet King thinks that something needs to be done about it, and so they start to like negotiate pretty much. I think there's no explanation for why the Parakeet King cares about this, and my reading of that is I think it's really pivotal to remember this movie is all from the perspective of Mahito. We're constantly this is the only scene I think in the movie where we are away from him. But the movie is from his perspective. And I would say that the way this character's motivation is very confusing would closely resemble how a child would perceive adult motivation. Like imagine if you tried to explain to a child why Hitler did what he did. It would be very confusing. Why does he hate Jews for just believing this? Why is he killing these people for what a child would say is silly reasons? I think that's why you introduce this Parakeet King when he does. He is acting like he's mad about the supposed sanctity of this birthing room, but there's no explanation given. And I think that's because there is no good explanation. It's just like typical human leaders, they stand on tradition and they stand on the supposed explanations, but ultimately he just wants power. As we see later, he just really wants to control this world, which is understandable. His people are probably dying. They don't have much food, just like the pelicans. But he, I think, symbolizes the brashness and lack of respect that a lot of totalitarian leaders have.
Yeah. So Grand Uncle kind of brushes him off. Takes Himi with him, and so the parakeets leave, and we see Mahito and the Heron come in. They're in the empty room, but King Parakeet has not actually left. He ends up following Mahito and the Heron.
This guy's got 100 levels.
100 stealth.
It makes no sense how this guy
maxed out his stealth levels. So they, Mahito and the Heron, walk through that empty room. And they actually go farther into this world. We see them, like, I can only explain it as like an outdoor porch. You know, like what a wraparound porch looks like on a house?
It looks,
that, but long.
It looks like a hotel.
Yeah.
Like a hotel lobby. And one of my favorite elements of film and photography, just images, paintings, is depth. Is when you have just a long expanse. You can see a long way. And especially it's fun in fantasy worlds is when you have something that's way longer than anything ever should be. And you just see how long this area is. And you see like scatterings of like desks and couches and lamps, and they seem to be covered. as if it's like a closed down hotel. And that's one of Miyazaki's favorite choices, is like things that have been closed down. He like that is like the setting of Spirited Away is this closed down amusement place. It's a small detail. It's incredibly small, but it's like why this movie works so well is every environment has a story. It has character. And this whole sequence is just our characters running, and it rules. I just, if you like the idea of characters silently running through beautiful vistas in gorgeously animated cells, then this movie is perfect for you.
Yeah. So they're going through the environment, and they finally get to the grassy hills that Mahito is at before. And I believe they have met up with Himi at this point. And as they're climbing up the hill, Mahito notices that they're walking on discarded rocks that are the same as what Grand Uncle is using to build the tower. And I think he picks one up. She tells him not to touch one, but I'm pretty sure he picks one up. Because what else do you do? If you've ever traveled anywhere with me, I am always on the hunt for a plastic baggie to bring things back home with me, such as sand and or rocks. So relatable content for me.
Yes.
Very, very targeted. And so they finally meet up with Grand Uncle again. And so I think this is where we get a little bit more information where Grand Uncle is like, the world is dying and I need you to take my place. Mahito's like, I don't know about that.
Well, he also says, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I have...
He points to a scar.
I've scarred myself with my own malice. Which is an interesting, like, it...
Such a mature statement. I would not have said that at 11 years old.
We had previously discussed how the depth of this character and how complex he is and what's going on. And this reveals how emotionally aware and scarred this character is. That, like, the death of his mother really, really hurt him. But he's also learned a lot through this journey. And I don't think this movie ultimately has any big conclusion. It's just a journey, but like this is the closest we get to that, is him saying that about himself. But also something we skipped over, and it's a small detail, but I think this movie is made up of small details. When he meets up with Himi, she gives him a huge hug, and it's like, I'm just glad you're alive. That's like, he's like the healing that's what he needed. I think that's ultimately a big purpose of this journey, was for him to have like one last experience with his mother. And there's one more line of dialogue that she has as they depart that I think is the closure that he needed. But yeah, the Grand Uncle gives him the chance, and the Parakeet King finally shows up, and I thought for sure the Heron was about to eat it.
Same.
Because the Parakeet King is standing right behind the Heron.
And the Heron has been lagging behind the whole time.
Yes. But the Parakeet King blasts past the Heron and is like, what? This whole world stands on this tower and you're going to give it to this boy? And the Parakeet King grabs the blocks and he builds his own tower.
And it falls.
And it's about to fall, and he like slashes it in half with his sword. Yes. And that then causes the world to unravel. And wow, this, like, as far as the animation, this is what the movie's been building towards. It's the way this world collapses is mind-blowing, that someone can draw. Just like the way it unravels is so cool. And our characters barely escape. I don't recall what happens to the Grand Uncle. Does he just disappear at this point?
He literally just disappears.
Interesting. So
I don't know. Yeah, he just...
I didn't even think about it. He's just
dissolves
gone.
Into the ether.
Yeah. And so our characters barely escape, and we also get to see all the parakeets trying to escape as well. They've got like luggage, and they're
bringing all their things.
It's cute. Like, ultimately, the parakeets are obviously murderous and
saving their children from an awful death.
Yeah, they're very cute, and I think they get a good conclusion. They're all pushing their way into the hallway with all the doors that we'd seen previous in the movie, and
Kariko's there.
She just kind of shows up like, I'm here too.
Kariko rescues Natsuko.
Oh, does she really? Okay, I must have missed that. Okay, that makes
fairly
sense.
certain. Who rescues
that
Natsuko?
makes sense. No, that
sure it's
totally
Kariko.
makes sense. Yeah. and they go to their doors, and there's like, I can't remember exactly what Mahito says here. Something like, "Come with me," or because he doesn't want his mom to go back to her door and return to her time because she's gonna die.
Yeah.
And Kimi is just like, "No, I want to go and be your mom. You're such a good boy." That's the movie right there. That's the pinnacle of the film. Like, the movie's been building to that moment, I think. And they go off into their own doors, and
Kuriko goes with Himi, and
Yeah.
Natsuko goes with
Maito.
Mito.
And all the birds go into their door as well.
Yeah.
And they
They get shrunk into bitty birds.
and it does the exact same thing they did earlier. All the parakeets come out and turn into normal parakeets.
Does the heron come with them?
Oh, the heron's also with them.
Yeah.
Yes. And the birds poop all over them, but then like Natsuko has this like, she's like, "The world is so beautiful." I don't remember what she says, but just like, she has this glorious moment. She's like, "It's so great to be alive."
Yeah.
And the birds are pooping all over her. It's a very interesting choice. And then Maito and the heron have like a moment. They go into like a sub-universe for a moment.
Yeah.
Like, all of the detail, the background goes away, and it's just the two of them. And they have kind of a closing conversation.
Heron's fulfilled his debt.
Yeah. And Heron is like, "You're gonna forget all this. They always do." It's very Pineapple, not I would say Pineapple Express, which is a Seth Rogen, James Franco movie. Polar Express. Thank you. It's very Polar Express of how like you grow up.
I got a Polar Express storybook for my parents this year, so
Very
that's
nice.
also podcast content.
And they just like, I can't remember what they said. I just remember how the feeling of like, this was like them like having a nice moment together of like, do you remember what they said?
Nope. But while this is happening, the tower is collapsing.
Oh yeah. I forgot
The
about
tower is just full on collapsing. Structurally gone. Just absolute destruction. But before everyone else gets there as well, he reaches down into his pocket and he pulls out Granny number 7,
that. Which was old Natsuko or
Kuriko,
yes.
and pulls out the little statue, and she pops out into a human. And I think she makes a comment or something. I think like, "Finally," something like that.
Yeah.
And so, as the birds dissipate, after he's had that moment, his dad is back. And I think he has more people with him. The other grannies are there ready to throw hands with, I don't know who, but they're all there. They reunite. Natsuko and Mahito have come out stronger from this. I think they've both healed from their grief. They've made the steps forward to be able to do so together. Trauma bonded.
Yeah. And then it just kind of cuts to as presumably a few years later. It's inside Mahito's room again. He's clearing everything out. We see his dad and Natsuko, and now their son, who's a few years old.
Chubby boy.
And they leave, and that's it. It's like very fast ending.
Yeah.
Very wraps up very quickly. And that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
It really, and then I really wish, I don't think they must not have had Windows Movie Maker in Japan, because the color and font they've chosen for the end credits looks like the defaults for Windows Movie Maker and it looks like a YouTube video from 2009. It's
they
very
put all the work
unfortunate.
into the animation, and they finally said, "Just throw it together."
I know.
Throw it together. We're done.
The final credits look so ugly, very unfortunately. It has a beautiful song. I definitely stick around and read the titles, because they didn't translate it in English for the dub, so it's just subtitles, but it has this really nice, beautiful final song. And I get so kind of sad. People are so quick to start standing up and talking and moving along, but like, I really recommend just sit with that ending. Like, just sit and enjoy the music and just think about what you just experienced, because you're never going to see this movie for the first time again. You're like, just let it be with you for a moment, because I think it's such a beautiful. Even if you're confused, even if you kind of hated it, just like let that sit. Just like let it settle down inside of your brain for a moment. Let it stick. Even if you think it's terrible, I think you have to agree that it's an incredibly unique experience. Before we do final summaries, I wanted to give some interesting things I found online about this movie. Someone commented some interesting stuff I found on Reddit. Regarding the change in the movie's plot midway, Studio Ghibli producer Tashio Suzuki said the following: "The most memorable moment during the making of the film was that the core narrative of the story changed midway. The film from Miyazaki was autobiographical. He was telling his own story at the beginning, and it was about the boy and the great uncle, with the great uncle character was supposed to be the centerpiece. The character was based on Studio Ghibli co-creator Isao Takahata. However, unfortunately, Takahata passed away during the production of this movie, and that was very shocking for Miyazaki. For a long time, he wasn't able to continue working on the storyboard, so he decided to change the centerpiece of the story from the boy and the granduncle to the relationship between the boy and the heron."
Interesting.
To add to that, Tahada was his senior animator. He was his colleague. He was his peer. He was his friend. But more than anything, he was the person who actually discovered his talent, Miyazaki being his talent, and brought that talent out. So he owed him so much. So in the beginning, the story was meant to be about how Miyazaki, or the protagonist, was coming of age, but it was about growing and maturing into his own under the guidance of his senior. That was the theme of the film. But then, because of Takahata's passing, he just immediately threw that away, and the story turned into a film about the blossoming friendship between the boy and the heron.
Oh.
I don't think that helps the movie, that concept, but I think the granduncle being a more mysterious figure works way better. The movie should not be called The Boy and the Heron.
No, and that's one thing I want to talk about, because the Japanese name is called How Do You Live?
Which is a real book that exists that loosely inspired this movie, but it is a book that exists in the movie. It's one of the books. Mm-hmm. It's the book. I think we may have skipped over it earlier in the film. Maito I think when he's making his arrow, he knocks over a stack of books and he picks one up, and in it there's a note that says, "To older Maito," or grown up Maito. It's from his mom. So the book itself is like a gift from his mother.
Mm-hmm. And so it's just interesting with the marketing in Japan versus America, because The Boy and the Heron marketing is very much, this is an adventure. This is an adventure movie. And not to say that's not, but I think having that added aspect of knowing the title of How Do You Live provides more depth. Because
yes.
Anyone who sees a movie will probably go, why is the movie named this? And that's any movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think. I'm pulling out Avengers: Age of Ultron. Who's Ultron? Who's Ultron? Why is it named Age of Ultron? Transformers: Dark of the Moon. Why is the moon dark? Why? Why is the moon dark? I don't know.
Legitimately, Last Jedi, Star Wars: Last Jedi. Yes, who is the last Jedi? Exactly. Yes. Is it Luke? Is it Rey? Is it Kylo?
Yeah. So, Who is the Phantom Menace?
Sure. For the longest time.
Who is the Rogue One? No, I'm kidding.
I did not know what menace meant as a kid. I didn't know what phantom or menace meant.
Danny Phantom?
But then I just assumed once I learned what menace meant, I thought it was Maul. He's the bad guy. But it's Palpatine, because he's the Phantom. No one knows who he is.
So yeah, like I feel like calling it The Boy and the Heron almost does it a bit of a disservice.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think going into knowing how do you live, you're like, how do I live? How do I live? How does a boy live, a boy who's coping with grief and very big feelings in an imperfect world?
He's got big mood, big feelings going on.
Big feelings. So
the big sad.
The big sad. So yeah.
Yeah, I like that. After seeing this movie twice and really trying to think about what is the unifying element of all of the imagery of everything that's going on, I would say, one, I would really recommend to people, don't try to figure this movie out. Don't try to think, okay, what is this movie about? What is it supposed to be? What is it literally happening? I think this movie is meant to be open to the viewer to interpret it as they will. I think that's really beautiful. So I think I say watch the movie and try to figure it out for yourself. What do these images tell you? And so I'm not really interested in the movie. Like a lot of people kind of trying to walk away from movies saying, "Oh, was it real? Did it really happen?" That's not important. I think regardless of if that world inside the tower existed or not, I would say the movie is showing that it is populated with elements of Mahito's subconscious. That everything that's in there is somehow a reflection of things he experienced in the real world. The Heron, one of the first things that happens when Mahito gets to his new country home is the Heron swoops through the house and nearly runs into him and then flies away. I would think for a child who did not grow up in the country, grew up in Tokyo, this is a terrifying moment. Herons are kind of terrifying looking birds because they have very weird bodies. They're very long and lanky. I would say this is probably a scary moment. And he feels terrorized by the bird in that moment. I would say at that moment, he projects all of his anxieties and fears, and his subconscious makes the Heron into his tormentor. And then his relationship to the Heron as the movie goes on resembles his own relationship to his trauma and how he's progressing through things. And by them becoming friends at the end represents the kind of uneasy friends. Like the Heron goes away at the end pretty much. And that kind of represents his...
Grief doesn't grow smaller, you just grow around it.
Yeah, good point. The tower. Imagine, like, if you're a kid and you're told, don't go into that tower. Your brain immediately fills that tower with fantastical, incredible things. And you're like, so you cannot stand until you go in there. And if you did go in there, it would be your fantasy world. It would be a place to play and fill with your imagination. That's why the tower is where all this occurs. And that's when the Heron lives in there. He misses his mom. He goes on an adventure with his mom. His mom was killed by an airplane. The villains of that world are birds. He met this crazy older woman. She becomes his like hero in there. He has an unborn brother. That's why there are the Wara Wara, because not everything has to have a super big purpose, but like just about everything in there is somehow a reflection of something he's going through or he's experienced or has seen. And so that means everything exists to tell us about him as a character. But also it's just like, I saw a video just earlier today. It was like, usually people will go very Billy on the Street style, go run up to someone and say, you have 5 seconds to tell me what you want for Christmas and I'll get it for you. But like this video was set up like that. Like, you have 10 seconds to tell me what you want for Christmas. And it goes, the endless wonder I had as a child. And that is a running theme through a lot of people. A lot of people wish they could go back to childhood. That feels like something this movie is trying to get at is, what does a fantasy world created by a child look like? But it's also very Japanese. That's in response to heritage, that like the weight of what you're expected to do. And Mahito seemingly rejects that. And my reading on the second one is I think the granduncle was wrong about a lot of stuff. I think sometimes people watch movies and assume the writer thinks the character is right, whatever they say. The granduncle, I think, was wrong, because what happens is, by allowing the world to be destroyed, everyone is saved. I'm not realizing other than maybe the pelicans. I think maybe the pelicans are all destroyed, but the parakeets are saved. The parakeets, who were presumably starving like the pelicans, are all released into the real world where they can go and just be birds and survive. And Himi and the older Kuriko are freed, and Natsuko is freed and able to go and have her baby. And if she had the baby, the movie never explicitly states this, but presumably that child would have been meant to replace the granduncle. So ultimately, I would say Mahito's decision saves just about everyone, and the granduncle is freed from his burden. And
exactly. I wanted to talk. I thought it was interesting because it felt like the granduncle had become he was a prisoner of this world, but also a prisoner of himself in trying to keep this perfect, idyllic, perfect quote unquote, idyllic world alive. And he's like, if I keep the tower up, then the tower is safe. This world is perfect. It's untouched. What a horrible burden to have to carry as a person. Totally. To have to carry the fates of everyone on your shoulders, to go, every single move I might make could destroy this world. And I really think, I agree with you. I think he was wrong about a lot of things. I don't think it's not. That kind of control is extremely unhealthy and
Sure.
impossible, entirely unobtainable. So I kind of looked at this as like, this is a sad situation to find oneself in.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so complex movie, very open to reading. I think that's why it stands out. I did also though get a chance to rewatch Asteroid City, which pretty much cements that's as of right now that's my number one movie, but this is a very close number two. It is so beautiful and so, just like really just fun to think about and talk about. I think.
You want to hear kind of my hot take?
Sure.
I thought it was fine.
Boy and the Heron.
Yeah.
Really? I'm surprised to hear that. Okay.
I totally enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was totally fun to see. Absolute whack portions of the film that you see in theaters, you're like, oh my gosh. Bashing himself in the head with a rock like 10 minutes in. It was like, oh. I just enjoyed it. Actually, like, for me, comparatively to other Miyazaki films, I thought it was fine. I have other films that I actually really enjoy more than this one. Now, I want to see it again.
Yeah.
I want to see it again and kind of, I think, absorb it more. But I think that's actually kind of where it is for me. I was like, that was fun.
What are the ones
enjoyed
that you enjoy more?
From Up on Poppy Hill is still my favorite.
Okay.
I also really enjoy When Marnie Was There. That one made me ugly sob at the end. Such a good film. And then I also really like Where the Wind Rises, which is another
that was his last one before.
which is another World War II film with flights and stuff.
So from Up on Poppy Hill is not actually Hayao Miyazaki. It's his son Goro Miyazaki.
But it's still a Studio Ghibli
yeah.
film.
Okay. I thought we were talking about Miyazaki. You're talking about Ghibli films.
Oh.
I see. And what was the other one you said?
When Marnie Was
When
There.
Marnie was. I'm just curious who directed these. Which is, yeah, is that one's also Ghibli?
Mm-hmm.
No, okay. So I think the only Studio Ghibli one that I've seen that's not a Hayao Miyazaki is The Cat Returns,
No.
which has kind of similar elements to this one of like
Oh my
someone
gosh, you're
going,
right.
but that one is a movie that is so goofy and silly that it has its own sense of entertainment. But I would not consider that one good, outside of obviously gorgeous animation.
It feels like a sequel. It feels like there's a whole first movie missing. And
Interesting.
Then
Okay.
When the Wind Rises.
I'm trying to find a list of Ghibli films here to see which ones I've seen. Oh, Red Turtle? Oh, I did not know that. You ever seen Red Turtle?
I have not. It's on my
Oh,
list.
it rules.
You tell me
it's
that every
so
single time it's
good.
brought up.
Because it is. It's great. I highly recommend Red Turtle. So I've never seen Castle in the Sky. My Neighbor Totoro is just an all-timer. Which deals with a lot, and that one's Hayao Miyazaki. Never seen Grave of the Fireflies.
We need to watch the Grogu short they did.
Oh yeah,
Forgot
yeah.
they did that. So I've seen Princess Mononoke, which is fun. That's a long film. That one's so long. I've seen Howl's Moving Castle. Howl's Moving Castle is probably my least favorite, which is an absolute internet hot take.
Yes.
I'll get canceled for that one. But I've heard the book's really good, but I don't know. I just don't see the appeal for Howl. He acts like a 12-year-old. That's not romantic to me, personally.
Sure.
Kiki's Delivery Service is really cute. Nausicaa Valley of the Wind is fine. Grave of the Fireflies, which we need to watch. Allison said we could watch it, so we're watching it.
So you've got in '92, Miyazaki also made Pocoroso, which is about a pig man
Yes!
who flies a prop plane.
You fell asleep in that one. We watched it. You
It's
fell
a
asleep
very
like halfway
sleepy
through.
movie, yeah. But recommend. It's a very that one's less literally or less metaphorical and more just vibes. But that's a fun. It's got a lot of fun things happening in it.
What is another one I watched?
And then you got Spirited Away, which is also another all-timer that I highly recommend.
Ocean Waves is also really good.
Oh, I've not heard that one.
I liked Ocean Waves. So
Ocean
yes,
Waves.
I enjoyed The Boy and
Oh,
the Heron.
interesting. Boy and the Heron, yeah, I would say of the ones I've seen,
I think it's in my top 10 Miyazaki films.
Miyazaki or Studio Ghibli?
Or Studio Ghibli, I mean.
Yeah, I've only seen a handful, and it would be on. I wouldn't put it as high as Spirited Away or Neighbor Totoro, but I think it still stands alone. Like, I just appreciate how singular it is. Like, there's just nothing, even for Miyazaki, a guy who makes movies with a lot of similar elements, it still feels unique, even in that context.
For sure, absolutely.
And I think I would love for Americans to get more exposure to this kind of art.
Yes, absolutely.
Any other final notes before we do Meme Minute?
I feel like that was it for me.
Cool.
Can I pee?
Oh, sure. And we are joined by our editor on Mike for Meme Minute, but it's longer than Minute. But is it longer than an analysis of a Hayao Miyazaki film? Hopefully not. To start off, I've got some videos.
We didn't ask Athena what her thoughts on The Boy and the Heron were.
Athena, how do you feel about this movie that you've neither seen nor comprehend? Sounds like a lot of the internet's feelings as well. So here's a so this video I saved in reference to something you said.
My 8-year-old.
Got an 8-year-old at home.
Got an 8-year-old at
8-year-old girl. In last week when we were watching Monarch, there's a part where Godzilla makes eye contact with one of our main characters.
Put her down.
and it reminded me of this video that I saw. So it's a hand-drawn animation, and you'll hear the song, and it's hand-drawn frame of a person looking up at Godzilla.
Is it Willem Dafoe? Ooh, that's scary.
So it says, "You don't know me, but I know you." And when it cuts to "I know you," it's Godzilla looking down at the people. And I just found that so terrifying.
So Legendary Godzilla eye contact is whatever. -1 Godzilla eye contact is horrifying. You could probably say the same for Shin Godzilla if he knew how to make eye contact with anyone.
He's got fish eyes.
He just stare.
Do you have any videos?
I don't have any videos.
Okay, I'll play mine real fast then. Okay, so here's a first one.
Excuse me.
It says Nightmare Fuel. It's so it's like an animatronic Yoda with a Santa hat on at like Home Depot or something, and he's seemingly motion tracked. He's broken. His head is cocked sideways. The person walks up to him, and his mouth just goes. Rah, 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 rah. So funny.
So funny.
This clip from Phantom Menace.
Oh my gosh.
So it's the scene where the Rolly droids, the Droidicos show up, but instead of the droids, it's just a orangutan just rolling. Oh, you get a kick out of that. How many memes do you have, Rachel? Oh, no.
16, 17?
Oh, it's not too bad. Okay. Give me 2.
I'm just a slow counter.
I whenever it takes you that long, sometimes I just think that you have a lot.
Everybody gangsta until the Separatists pull out whatever this thing was supposed to be. Oh, hold on. My phone's not on. My bad. it's a scene from
Genndy
Tartakovsky's Clone Wars.
It was just this big floating thing
ship
that just punched holes in the ground. It would send a shockwave.
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing's sick. Give me another one. So you got Starscream holding 2 people, and one is the touch and one is the powers. I got the touch.
Yeah, look at Starscream is captioned as you, and he's holding the touch and the power.
You've got the touch and what is you got the power?
That's the next line in the song.
Oh, I see. Very good. Yes.
That sounds familiar. I wonder what it could possibly
I thought
be.
maybe it's another song.
Like He-Man?
Megan Fox. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. Looking up Optimus Prime thing. Who are you? My name is Optimus. Optimus who? He looks sideways and sees Luke and Leia's Force Ghost, Optimus Skywalker. People did a lot of these jokes after Rise of Skywalker.
And you know what? They're funny.
because it crosses over.
So funny.
What do you got?
Pocket sand.
It's Ben Kenobi throwing pocket sand at
Darth Vader.
No! So this is from that scene in Book of Boba Fett when the Rancor grabs Mando and like tries to eat him and like bites down on his helmet, and the Rancor is labeled me and Mando's helmet is labeled pin caps.
That's pretty good.
What else you got?
The Drake meme where he's like putting his hands up like where he's not interested, and then the pointing where he is interested. Drake the singer.
Yes.
Clone Wars Anakin Skywalker shaking his head to the Mandalorian, but giving the thumbs up to not just the Mandalorian, but the woman DeLorean and the children DeLorean too.
Very good. So this image is a very strange combination of interest for this podcast. Most of this is what I presume is a real comic, but they've added something at the end. It's Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong versus those droidicas.
Because the Justice League versus Godzilla is like an actual thing going on right now.
So we've got both Star Wars and Godzilla in there, which I found fun. But also someone photoshopped the like sunglasses and marijuana doobie.
Oh my gosh, on the droidica.
Very, very fun addition.
So this is Megan will probably be the only one who actually enjoys this. This is a template from Avatar: The Last Airbender, where Uncle Iroh is speaking to Zuko, but it's been edited out. Anakin, you're going to get a kick out of this. The power to save the one you love from dying was in my sleeve the whole time. And this is where Iroh pulls out the White Lotus chip and it says force healing.
Dang, dude. So this meme is a conversation between Krennic and Jin at the end of Rogue One. And Krennic says, "Who are you?" And Jin says, "I'm Jyn Erso, daughter of Galen and Lara. You probably don't recognize me because of my red arm." Which is a reference to C-3PO's line from Force Awakens.
Was it Force Awakens? I forgot he had it in that one. You've heard of Elf on the Shelf. Now get ready for...
Skullcrawler on a dollar. Skullcrawler being one of the creatures from Skull Island.
No.
I'm explaining to our listeners.
My favorite thing is the army guy that they found. He's like, it's a skull crawler. That sounded cooler in my head. I've never had to say it out loud before.
What a good movie. This is less of a meme and more of a terrifying thing someone decided to do. So one of the most common images that's been used in the promotion for Godzilla -1 is their ship, like their small tugboat with Godzilla like in the water behind them. Someone decided to replace him with an anime character. And yeah, that's for you, Rachel.
I don't like it. Return to sender.
What else you got?
Visual.
That's so good. Oh man, I love it. Oh, so it's Shin Godzilla, which is the title of a Godzilla movie. Shin meaning real in Japanese. But Shin is also the name of a character from Star Wars Ahsoka with a very particular haircut, which is this like bangs, like bleach blonde, and they put
bleach hair.
Yeah, they put the hair on Shin Godzilla. Good joke. That's really good.
We're gonna get our weekly crunches, Cameron.
Oh, she over there munching.
She munching. Athena's having her dinner.
This is an image of a comic, and a guy is walking with a book, and he's got Godzilla's head, and he opens the book, and it's like really bright, and it says nuclear bomb testing, and then the same light is coming out of the guy's eyes, but it's coming out of Godzilla's mouth instead.
Oh my gosh. Car salesman slaps car. Bumblebee slaps back.
Very good. One of the classic memes. So here's a scene from Godzilla vs. Kong, but they've added some dialogue from one of this year's best movies, Across the Spider-Verse. So Mechagodzilla says, "I created you, and you created me." King Kong, Godzilla, why'd you create this guy? Godzilla, I didn't. He's talking crazy.
Godzilla, why'd you create that guy? I didn't. So this is a scene from A New Hope where Luke is talking with old Obi-Wan. You knew my father? Yes, I did. Remarkable man. Flammable.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite. I just like hearing that in
Flammable.
I'm trying to remember the actor's name. Alec Guinness's voice.
Flammable.
Yes, he was a good friend. Flammable. This is a one-panel comic. And I included this because now a part of this image is now our cover image on Facebook. You have a like an ape in a dress talking down to a smaller Godzilla-looking creature, and a what is presumably King Kong pouting, looking out the window, and the mom just says, "Last time he came out to play with you, half the neighborhood was destroyed." Not a hilarious image, but
That's
this
a Far Side comic.
I think it's Far Side inspired.
Are you sure it's not?
This is not exactly Far Side style. But just this image of King Kong pouting and barely looking over the photo
over the
is
windowsill.
so funny to me. What else you got?
So you're married, so you should read this one.
Your BF or GF should be your second priority. Your first priority should always be Star Wars Rebels. Very good.
Oh, so funny.
This is more of a illustration than a meme. This is a canonical explanation for how Godzilla stands in the middle of the ocean in a lot of movies, and you can't change my view. And it's just a drawing of Godzilla, exactly the moment from when he, like, in King of Monsters, he, like, shoots his beam in the air, and he's, like, barely standing out of the water, but he's just got lots of leg. He's just all legs, like 5 times his body length.
One of my favorite tweets
and it
this
says
year.
Godzilla, King of Legs, and his legs are just labeled yes.
One of my favorite tweets this year sent to my former coworker, where someone said, "What is Godzilla standing on?" Because it's always images of him just at the top, and someone said, "He's standing on business." So this is the template where the guy is reading a book and he points at it and then he's like shocked. Jedi, how to prevent your downfall. Be nice to chosen one. Don't trust army created by enemy. Jedi, damn, I wish I could read.
Yeah, it's like 1960s animated Peter Parker is who that is.
He looks weird.
Yes. This meme format has come
It's like
up
a
before.
square.
Yes, that's kind of how he looked like in the early comics, though. This meme format has come up on the podcast before, but this time it's more seasonally relevant. It says, if Ahsoka Tano wore Santa hats, would she wear them like this, which is just one big hat, or like this, and like 2 smaller hats on each of her?
Hold on, let me see that one. You made a similar one like that a couple weeks ago. Huh. It's got a watermark on it though. Huh. So this meme is actually taken from one of my favorite episodes of Clone Wars, which there aren't many of, FYI. Allison, if you're listening to this might be spoilers for an arc you haven't gotten to yet.
She doesn't listen. Don't worry about it.
There is an arc where I believe it is Hondo Onaka and his pirate. They capture Anakin and Obi-Wan. They have also captured Dooku. And you have a couple of episodes where Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Dooku are forced to work together. It's the funniest thing to me. They're all tied together too. That makes it way funnier.
Yeah.
It's just peak humor.
That's pretty early on. I think she's probably seen that one by now.
But there's a scene where Dooku's trying to get them out of the locked cell and Anakin's being Anakin. And Obi-Wan says, "Anakin, control your insolence. The Count is concentrating." And they put it to picture that of the 3 wolves where the 2 look to be laughing. The other one in the middle is super annoyed, and it's Anakin and Obi-Wan laughing and Dooku. Yeah, so good. That's actually like one of my favorite arcs. It's just so it's so funny. It's so funny.
It's really funny to think about such a thing happening, but in the more realistic, like serious live action movie. Like, this man tried to kill you. You're gonna kill him. But yet you're having this wacky comical adventure together. This is a famous conversation from the movie Man of Steel, where Lois Lane asks Superman, "What's the S stand for?" And in the movie, he says, "Hope." But in this version, he's accompanied by Force ghosts of Luke and Leia, and he says Skywalker.
So this is a fake YouTube thumbnail reviving grandpa from the dead gone extremely wrong, 18 plus. Posted by Optimus Prime, and its image is one of those fake YouTube like super exaggerated thumbnails, but it's
circles
Sentinel
and
Prime circles and arrows. Yeah,
super good. That's really funny. This meme is based. This is actually this meme, and then the last meme I shared last week, but I'll show it again. This is based off of relevant from last week, the trailer that we watched, Kung Fu Panda 4, and it's got Tai Lung from the trailer, and it's just somehow Tai Lung has returned.
This is an image taken from the back seat of a vehicle, and it's captioned. It's like the Snapchat little text bar. Where my Uber driver taking me?
It's just Godzilla.
It's just Godzilla through the windshield.
But it's just a particular version of Godzilla they've used. It really makes it funny. I showed this to you last week, but I'll show it again. It's the female dancer Mon Calamari. Why does this exist? And the fact that this thing is performing during the infamous story that Palpatine tells Anakin, the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, is very funny to me. That's my last meme.
My last one is also from Clone Wars. So actual Clone Wars content tonight where I'm not bashing on it. What a concept. And this is the scene, I think it's from season 4 or 5. It's Satine, Anakin, and Ahsoka, and she's introducing Corky to them, the ominous nephew that spawns in and spawns out. And you have a picture from SpongeBob of two fish doing math of Satine plus Obi-Wan equals Corky, and it's labeled Anakin and Ahsoka.
Very good.
Okay.
It's from that episode where Patrick and SpongeBob are raising the clam together, and it's starfish plus sponge equals clam.
Yeah.
Good stuff. That's funny. I like that one.
Oh, man.
All right, so you already sent me your memes.
No, I have to send them again.
Okay.
Because I added some.
As she does that, I'm gonna do our in memoriam. It's the end of the year, so we're gonna memorialize all the people we lost along the way. Wilco from Bad Batch season 2, episode 1. He's still fallen. Merrick from Ahsoka. We hardly knew you. Morgan Elsbeth, also from Ahsoka. Glad she's gone. She deserved it. Air Razor from Transformers Rise of the Beast.
I'm not glad she's
truly
gone.
A sad loss. Unicron from Transformers. I presume he died. I actually don't remember.
Yeah,
he died. Hopefully, actually now I didn't even think about this time. Thankfully, the guy who voiced Unicron broke the curse. He did not die a few days before the movie was released.
Subverting expectations.
Rip to the bottom level of Papu, the island that they lived on in Bad Batch that just got totally wiped out
by a tsunami. You think they would have not built there?
Yeah, you think. Rest in peace to Bill Randa's wife. I almost called Mojito Monarch. Speaking of mothers, Mojito's mother, who died off screen in a firebombing, and finally, all of the randos who got killed by Godzilla and Godzilla -1. All of those we lost this year. We salute you.
Rip.
Okay. So,
oh wait, did you say Tech?
Oh, I forgot to put him on the list. Of course, Tech, who's also probably still falling. Yeah, he dead. He gone. Don't particularly miss him, but also did I was thinking about this earlier. The lizard woman who employed
Sid is still alive.
Is she still alive? Dang it.
She's just rich because she sold him out.
Uh-huh.
So morally, she's dead.
Okay. There's a lot of very Rachel jokes in here.
I know. There's a couple of different repeat ones that sometimes you tend to do. You do that. I doubt you made this one.
Oh, I did not know. I did not realize the Shin Godzilla one had the slogan, "A god incarnate, a city doomed." That makes it really funny. Man, there's very, very. So is this the one you're
Is
guessing?
this the one you made?
So it's Godzilla reading the book, and the
then-
light goes into him, and then comes out of his mouth. I did make that
Nice!
one. Yeah. So it was like a comic that was supposed to imply you're in darkness, and you read this book, and the book is light, and then
You're
it goes into
light-
him,
you're
and then he
in
opens
light.
his eyes, and it's coming out, and you
Yeah.
can see. But the idea, I thought it was
You can't
hilarious
see.
that it's like the radiation coming in and going out. So that's a +1. I need to bring up the score sheet.
I almost wondered. Other contenders I was thinking about was those Droidicas. I was like, and I actually almost wondered for a second if the Optimus Skywalker was. I was like, I don't know.
Okay, Rachel improves to. Oh no! Stop that. Week 18, Rachel has 12 wins and 6 losses.
Let's
Very
go!
good. Very good. It's a good ratio.
Get ratioed.
Man, there's so many in here. Man, this is like, I think it speaks to that you have a really good sense of humor that I can't. There's a lot of very funny ones in here, and I'm just not sure. I oftentimes just need to go with my gut reaction, because when I ignore it, and my gut reaction tells me that it is Starscream holding the 2 guys, and it's the touch. Dang it! Okay, my second guess would be, is it Shin Godzilla?
It is.
Dang it! You being able to not contain your laughter is what cued me in just now. Dang it! Oh, that's 2 straight losses for me. Dang, I'm really glad I got that double one. Yes, I'm at 10-9. Dang. So
I'm proud of
welcome
that
to
one.
the end of the year. It's good.
I'm proud of that. I'm so proud of that one.
Brilliant.
I had to wait for a good week to put that one in. I was like, man, if I have a bad week, he's gonna know.
Thank you so much for joining us this first year of the podcast. We really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. This was a ton of fun. Coming up next week will be a recap episode, a best of episode, highlight episode, a highlight reel of our first year. When are we gonna record again?
We'll have some Monarch episodes to watch.
Yeah, we'll either come back next week on the 3rd or the 10th, one of those two. Somewhere in the next 2 weeks, we'll podcast.
Come back clean.
And we'll talk about the next couple episodes of Monarch.
Which
yeah.
might be a shorter episode.
And thank you just so much for joining us today for this. I hope you enjoyed our analysis of I almost said the man and his uncle, the boy and the Heron.
That's the bootleg title.
Wow, we're done. This is it. This is Cameron and Rachel signing off, saying, "A god incarnate, a city doomed, Shin Athena." Good night, everyone.
Good night. Tell you a story. My coworkers heard a crunchy noise in the office and assumed it was me popping my knuckles.
What was the crunchy sound?
I don't know. I am at my desk, hear noise, and my supervisor across the hall. Oh, Rachel. And I went, what? And she goes, that wasn't you popping your knuckles? And I went, no, but I can. And I popped them all, cue the groans from the other offices in the end of my hall with it. Ugh.
Man, you popping your knuckles is like a 3rd character, on like a 4th character, including Athena.
So my coworkers know me by my knuckles. Not because I fight them, but because of the sounds they make.